Well, with a World War II Airsoft event coming up 9th or 10th of December, Führer's Escape, or whatever it's called, I decided it's about time that I did actually make a radio set to go on the tank. So here it is. This here is the microphone which I made several years ago to go on the tank to use as a PA speaker, coupled up with the horn speaker on the front of the tank, which is similar to that unit just there. You can probably see this one's been in a game, and it's taken a few hits on the inside there. But this is one that I just use in things like Drakelow tunnels and so on. It's got about 20 foot of wire on it, so I can do sound effects. Right, the PMR is basically, it basically started off as a similar unit to this, one of these little binatone PMR walkies, which you can pick up for, well, two for about £15, so fairly cheap, you know. But this one's just the empty box because it's already been emptied of all its circuitry. What we have inside here, well, I've got a speaker, a large speaker in the middle of the unit, and if I swing this over and try and open this up, take the back off, and yeah, it's like I've done several times before with making these dummy radio sets up. This one, however, this radio set's not been made to any particular plan to make it look like an existing World War II radio. It's just something I've knocked up to try and make it look old-fashioned, apart from things like the little LCD display in the corner there, and a few of these red push buttons probably look semi-modern. They're just scrap which I picked up from old equipment. Now, in here, down in that corner there, obviously we have the PMR radio set, and on the other side of the board I've basically soldered all the extension wiring off where the little rubber conductive buttons used to push onto the keyboard. So I've extended them off and wired them up to the various flick switches and buttons and so on. Quite simple. And where the antenna used to connect, which was down there in the corner, I've soldered the inner of a coax cable to it, and then I've used RG58 coax, but it's only a short length, and I've soldered that to the CB antenna socket here on the outside of the case, and the outer of the coax is down to the negative or screen on the PMR walkie-talkie. You can see there's generally a position very close where you can solder that down onto the casing, and not forgetting, when you come up here, solder that to the outside of the whatever it is, SO, the 259 socket anyway. Right, this here is an antenna which I made probably last year. In terms of the length of it, I can't remember. It's close to being a full wave antenna. What it is there's a length of fiberglass rod inside this. Then I have wrapped a piece of relatively heavy gauge copper wire, power wiring around it, single core copper wire. I've wrapped it round, that's why it's got this slightly spiraling, you know, wavy effect as it runs along the antenna. You can see it's a wavy pattern. That's because of the copper wire which is wrapped around. Then I've slid some cable insulation over, and then in a couple of places what I've done is yeah, I'm starting to forget exactly how I've done this now. I've then I've then put some heat shrink over it. I'm wondering now whether I've done something a little special. I may have done. This might actually be a dipole that I made, but I don't think it is. I'm starting to forget now how I made that antenna, but it works pretty decently. I have a feeling it's just a full wave, and what I've done is I've had to slide 2 pieces of insulation on, and then I've put some heat shrink in the centre. Anyway, it's just connected to the centre conductor of the PL259 plug on the bottom here. Now in here we have one of these Chinese amplifiers off eBay. Quite a few of these, and they're good value for money. This one says it's 200 watt, but that's actually this audio power, 200 watts peak audio. It's not a real 200 watts in the true sense of the word. Anyway, I won't go into all that. Over here we have one of these little clip-on MP3 players, which are about £4 on eBay, and they come with well, they have a little socket on them, a little stereo socket, and they have a micro USB socket on them. So what you do is you take it out the casing, and again you solder the various wires onto where the little push buttons operated the player, solder them on, and what I've done is I've soldered the other ends of the wiring to a piece of strip board here, and at the same time as that I've taken the positive and the negative from the USB, which are somewhere in there. It's so small and fiddly to solder to, and I've ran them round, and I've soldered them onto the strip board, onto, I think positive is pin 1 of a USB, and pin 4 is the negative, if I remember right. Yeah, if you look down there you can see there's 4 holes. One is red, which is 5 volts. Second hole, let's see, I don't think I'm actually got any wiring into there, but third hole nothing, and then the fourth hole is black, which is the negative. Now that 5 volt supply comes from a little 5 volt regulator IC I've got down there, so that drops the 12 volts which is running on the vehicle down to 5 volts, and that 5 volts operates the MP3 player and the PMR radio. So obviously this amp is designed for in-car entertainment, so it runs off 12 volts, so that goes straight over and connects onto the 12 volt supply, which is in that little screw terminal block down there. Now what I've done is the USB, micro USB, I have plugged the cable in on it, and I've soldered 2 USB sockets on this board. One which is to connect that into there, so I can plug the USB lead in, save me soldering tiny little wires on the USB points on the back of the board. So I've done this, and then what I've got on the outside of the case is I've cut another hole, and there you can get at the USB socket. So once it's mounted in the tank in that way, I should still be able to plug a lead in the side to program the MP3 player memory using a laptop. For instance, I can just plug a USB lead in and program it up. The microphone, I've used an old curly cord off a telephone handset and one of these 4-pin sockets. So what it is I've used the 2 top sockets there are wired to the push button in the microphone handset. You might notice this handset is actually made out of wiring conduit connections. You know, it's one of these gadgets for running electrical conduit into the distribution boxes and stuff like that, you know. And I've welded another little bit of pipe on the side there, and I fixed this push button, large red push button, into it as a microphone key. This rubber on the front here is a piece of car CV gator, and basically you can push that up against your face and it cuts out the noise from the engine while you're speaking into it. Something like that, if you know what I mean, if you can see that. Yeah, so that works quite well. I've just used the microphone down inside there, which came off the PMR radio circuit board. This time I'm finding that microphone working quite well, but there's tons of space in here to put any size microphone, as long as it's compatible with the walkie-talkie unit and works. Yeah, so as I say, the 2 top sockets on there are connected to the microphone switch, and the other 2 just go straight to the mic. So that plugs into there, that screws up. Let's see what else we got. We've got the antenna, which I can plug into here, and that connects like so. Again, it'd be easier if I wasn't using one hand. Should get a tripod out when I'm doing this sort of thing. Anyway, that connects on there. Then we have the positive and negative, which is here, and I can connect this to this little 12-volt gel cell battery which I've got. Connect the negative first, like that, then the positive, like so. Right, this speaker can then plug into there, like that, and I've got positive, sorry, volume control there, just turn that on. And we have gunshots, which is just turn the volume down on that. This side of the unit is the MP3 player, and this side of the unit is the walkie-talkie. So I can turn the walkie-talkie on like that, and it comes up on channel 1. If I push the mode button there, the channel flashes, and I can push up and it changes to channel 2, and so on, and then back to 1. It's a basic simple 8-channel set. The charge indicator there is dummy. I just thought it added a little bit of nice touch to it. This should now transmit. Obviously you can't hear anything. I'd have to have a walkie-talkie present so that you can hear me communicating with it. Yeah, so here is a standard cheap Barnatown PMR. This one's actually a little bit more of an expensive one actually. I haven't butchered this to put it into one of my radios. Oh, there's some familiar music.
The darkness of my world was all clear.
Hank Williams Jr. from Kelly's Heroes. Yeah, so I can turn that down a little bit again. The walkie-talkie unit actually speaks out of this unit here for inside the tank, and obviously that speaker there will be outside of the tank. Say I've got lots of gunshots in it. Anyway, turn that down. That's all ready for driving through the tunnels, so I'm at Drakelow. Yeah, so I've turned this on, turn that up a bit, that volume control, and if I speak inside of the, into the CB, well, into the PMR radio, you'll now hear it nice and clear, or with a bit of a whistle coming out of the radio. So that's coming out the internal speaker, but not out of the PA speaker. Likewise, if I stick that down there and then talk into the unit, which I've got it into my mouth right now, the microphone, you can hear it coming out down there in a walkie-talkie. Yeah, so quite pleased with that really. Obviously when it goes in the tank, this whip aerial's not going to be on, and I've got an externally mounted antenna fitted on the tank now, and it's coaxed up so it connects onto here, and that's going to be my next little job, to go and fit it in the tank. It's also occurred to me that for this game I'm going to need a gun for the driver, so I'm going to have to try and use a Sten gun, I think. So what I've done is I've used this AGM Sten, and I've taken the front barrel shroud off to make it so that I can put the barrel through a cutout or something in the front of the gunner's screen, and I've taken the existing stock off, and I just found a Sten Commando stock picture from World War II on the web, and it happened to be scale on the screen, so I just put this piece of copper wire up on the screen and bent it round into the shape, and that's given me the shape. And then I've bent one in this piece of steel, which is, well, it was 1 inch wide, but I've cut it down to 20 millimeters wide. It was 25 millimeters and I've cut it down to 20 because it didn't sit very nicely in my hand. Now I'm just going to weld this up. So I've made a back to go on the rear of the Sten, and yeah, the shape's not too bad. As I say, I've copied it off a real one which was shown on the internet. So anyway, I'll get back to the radio in a moment. just move that Sten from there for a minute. Right, I've turned the engine off now so you can actually hear what I'm saying. Now, we've got the radio fitted in now. Mic's hanging up over here. Looks fairly okay. Power turned on. If I push the play button there, that's the gunshots coming out of it at the front of the tank.
My world was all cleared away. The flowers are blooming. It's a beautiful day. There's a girl with a heart.
Could sound a little bit better.
Make my day so bright. A cold, cold night. I know my sunshine was sent from above, and the starlight she outshines them all. In a world
That's the radio on. If I put the walkie-talkie unit on, this PMR should communicate with it. Which it does. I'll turn the volume down a little bit. I should do it to talk out of the shot in there. Yeah, she seems to be. Might have a few teething problems I've got to sort out, but I think she's functioning for now anyway. Anyway, I'm going to have to cut a hole in this. There's gunshots coming out the front speaker. I'm going to have to cut a hole in this front screen to be able to use this Sten gun. So that's going to have to be able to be fired through that front hole there. And I might take this section, the barrel, the heat guard off so that I can push it through a little bit further so I can use it. It's either that or I just try and unflap the screen and fire under it, but someone will end up firing back at me even though they're actually not supposed to, because I'm supposed to be bulletproof being a tank for this particular game anyway. So anytime if they actually do shoot me, it doesn't count as a kill. So I don't know what's the best decision to make on this. This radio battery here, I'm probably going to end up securing that up. Maybe just put it in some sort of bag to insulate it, and cable tie it somehow to this uni-strut section here so it doesn't move. I want to keep the battery on a separate. If the engine stalls out, it tends to knock the radio gear on and off, so I'd rather have it on a separate supply. I think it'll perform a bit better. The actual antenna that this radio set's using, it's screwed in on here at the side, and the antenna is mounted just down here at the back. You see I've got a battery charger slung on it at the moment, just to stop the charger vibrating off while the engine was running before. Anyway, I think I'm getting there. I think it's functioning well enough for what I need next week. Those shots might not sound too loud from inside here, but if you stood in front of the PA speaker in front of the tank, there's quite a difference, I would imagine.